It's the gray hour before a battle, and your stomach is a fist. In a few hours, you'll be standing in a shield wall while men try to open you up with iron, and right now, someone is handing you breakfast. You look down at it. A lump of biscuit so hard you could break a tooth on it, a smear of greasy fat, a wedge of crumbly cheese, and a cup of something sour that makes your eyes water. This is the meal that's supposed to carry a Roman soldier into the fight of his life. And the grim joke of it is that the food, the camp, and your own terrified body were often more dangerous to your guts than the enemy's swords. Let me show you what they actually fed you, and why so many soldiers were sick before the first arrow ever flew. Start with the foundation of everything, the thing a Roman soldier ate more than anything else: grain. Wheat, mostly. The whole Roman war machine ran on it. When there was time and a proper camp, that wheat became bread, or got boiled into a thick porridge called pulse that sat in your belly like wet cement. But on campaign, marching toward a fight, you didn't get fresh bread. You got hardtack. The Romans baked these biscuits twice, slowly, to drive out every trace of moisture so they'd last for weeks without rotting. The result was a brick, dense, dry, and so jaw-breakingly hard that soldiers soaked it in liquid just to make it chewable without cracking their teeth. It kept you alive. It did not make you happy. Then there's the drink, and this one tells you everything about a legionary's life. You weren't sipping fine wine before battle. You were drinking posca, which was essentially sour wine or vinegar cut with water. It was tart, rough, and cheap. The everyday beverage of the army on its worst days. There was a sliver of accidental genius in it, because the acidity could make questionable water a little safer and a little less foul to swallow. But make no mistake, choking down watered vinegar on a stomach already clenched with fear is not a gentle way to start a morning. Round it out with some bacon fat, a bit of hard cheese, maybe salted pork if the supply officers were feeling generous, beans, olives, the odd dried fig, and you've got the fuel of the men who conquered the world. Heavy, salty, sour, and rough, and monotonous beyond what you can imagine. Day after day after day, the same grain, the same fat, the same sour cup, until the sight of it turned your stomach on its own. There was one twist on the menu that no soldier ever wanted to see, though, and it was a message as much as a meal: barley. Normally, barley was animal feed, what you threw to the mules. But when a unit disgraced itself, a Roman commander could put the men on barley rations instead of wheat. A public, edible humiliation, feeding his own soldiers like livestock until they'd earned their grain back. And when the supply lines failed altogether, when an army outran its wagons or got cut off in hostile country, even the barley ran short, and disciplined legionaries were reduced to foraging, gnawing whatever the land gave up, sometimes slowly starving in the middle of a campaign. The rough food in your hands before the battle, in other words, was the good scenario. So far, this just sounds unpleasant. Stay with me, because the actual sickness, the thing that hollowed out Roman armies, came from 3 directions at once, and the food was only the first of them. The diet itself was hard on a body under stress. A gut full of dense biscuit, fatty pork, sour vinegar wine, and a pile of beans is a recipe for cramps, gas, and misery on a calm day. Now feed that to thousands of men whose insides are already knotted with dread, and you've got an army with churning, rebelling stomachs marching toward a fight. The rations kept you fueled, but they sat heavy and turned on you exactly when you needed your body to cooperate. That's the mild part. Here's the killer, the real one, and it has nothing to do with how the biscuit tasted. Water. Or rather, what was in the water. Picture what a Roman camp actually was the night before a major battle. Thousands upon thousands of men, plus their pack animals, plus their horses, all crammed into one patch of ground, all drinking from the same nearby streams and wells, all relieving themselves in trenches that those same water sources ran past. It does not take a doctor to see where this goes. The water got fouled with human and animal waste, and into that water came dysentery, the bloody, draining gut sickness that has followed armies throughout all of human history. In the ancient world, there was no understanding of germs, no idea that the invisible thing in the water was the enemy. So men drank, and men sickened, and the camp filled with the sound and the stench of soldiers who couldn't leave the latrine trench, their bodies wringing themselves out, growing weaker by the hour. And this got worse, not better, right before a battle, because that's exactly when the most men were packed into the smallest space for the longest time. Take a moment with that image, because it rewrites everything you think you know about ancient war. The night before glory, a huge share of the army wasn't sharpening swords and steeling their nerves. They were doubled over, feverish, hollowed out by something they drank, fighting just to stay on their feet. And then there's the third thing, the one your own body did to you, and the Romans absolutely noticed it. Fear. Real animal terror has a physical effect on the human gut, and standing in formation waiting for a battle to begin is about as much terror as a body can hold. Bowels loosen, stomachs heave. It is one of the oldest and most universal truths of combat that the moments before the fighting empty men out, and the legions were no exception. A whole rank of armored men could be standing in formation with their guts in open revolt, sweating and pale, willing their bodies to hold together long enough to fight. So, you've got the rough food churning, the dysentery raging through the water supply, and raw fear turning every man's insides to liquid, all converging in the hours before the killing started. So when that hard biscuit and cup of sour pasca got handed to you in the gray dawn, the meal was the least of your problems. It was one ingredient in a perfect storm of an upset, infected, terrified gut, shared across an entire army at the worst possible moment. And the worst part? Across the long sweep of Roman warfare, sickness like this almost certainly killed more soldiers than enemy weapons ever did. That's the brutal, unglamorous truth of ancient war that no triumphal arch will ever show you. For every man cut down in the heroic crash of the shield wall, more were quietly wasted away by fever and dysentery in the camp, dead from bad water and crowding before they ever got the chance to die a soldier's death. The mighty Roman legions, the ones that stamped their boots across 3 continents, were brought low again and again, not by barbarian heroes, but by what came out of a contaminated stream and a latrine trench dug too close to it. So picture that soldier one more time, in the cold light before the battle, forcing down a brick of biscuit and a mouthful of vinegar with shaking hands. He's worried about the spears and the swords. He's worried about the wrong thing. The enemy he should fear isn't lining up across the field. It's already inside him, in the water he drank, and the camp he slept in, working away while he waits for a glorious death that the dysentery might just beat to the punch. If you'd have kept that breakfast down, stick around, because next time we're stepping into yet another corner of the Roman world that looked far nobler in the history books than it ever did in the flesh.